getting back to it then. All right. First episode, Path of the Primate. We are here. Hello. Happy Sunday. How's everyone doing? Marco Dread Paul Gambino here. I'm letting the dreads fly out now because I've had my battle braids in all week. Fresh off my win on Saturday. So yeah, things have been good. What have I been up to? So what I wanted to do this video for, obviously a lot of my training and a lot of my philosophies have a little bit of a basis in elements. And anyone who watches things like Naruto, anyone who watches any animes, anyone who thinks anything about magic or you're into the occult, you'll see the presence of elements throughout. And Hermes Trismegistus, who was a Egyptian philosopher practicing the art of Heka, which is the great work. And one of the things he said was that if you are to break down your stone into the 4 elements, you will be able to see the whole magisterium. And that is what I've kind of taken to use towards a lot of the things that I do in a day-to-day. My thoughts are kind of scattered on a usual random basis. I'll look at one thing and I've got 17,000 thoughts about it. But at the same time, how I use this to kind of focus the path is while looking at things, it's having a meditation and a visualization and trying to find a synergy of what energies kind of equal that. We all know what it's like to sit around a fire. We all know what it's like on a windy day. We all know what it's like to be in strong currents or in the ocean. Or maybe you don't know what it's like to be in the ocean. I don't know. But we do know what it's like to at least be out on the ground in nature, and those different feelings pass into the energies of all of the things that we do. And I like that aspect of being able to tap into how I perceive an energy to be and translate that into something that I do. So on the rundown of how it kind of works into my martial arts, I've got my little book here, pal. And this is a little bit of my intro into elemental martial arts philosophy and focus. So as you begin with the fire, the essence of the fire is the fighting spirit, and that is a focus on building your mental fortitude, your explosive power and speed, and developing chains of combinations, because as the fire is able to spread, it requires the fuel to do so. And in that battle, without the breakdown of the other elements, which will apply to other aspects of what you need, the fighting spirit always has to be there. And the fighting spirit is what you need to be able to string together those punches, to be able to sit right chord. If I get caught, I've got to be able to carry on through it. So that was what kind of sat strongest to me, because fire, you don't defeat it without water, without dirt, without other elemental forces. So fire's ability to engulf everything had to then become the same kind of transition into how I kind of looked at it as a training force. So so that being the fighting spirit, being that overwhelming force, that has to be the focus of that fire element when it comes to the training and when it comes to the philosophy of what you're trying to do when it comes to the fight. So when we're hitting water, that is the fighting flow. The focus of controlling pace, fluidity of techniques and movement, and developing strength of positioning. Now, what I say by positioning is, I speak about this a lot at training with some of the guys. I like doing cheat steps and things. Sometimes I won't switch kick a lot. They're great, they're effective, they're fast, and they work. But I like the ability to really put my hip in to the end of a strike, particularly if I'm using my left leg. So I'll step, and I tend to do that off a blinding movement, like hand in the face or off a jab. I'll be doing a video. I did some training with some of the MMA guys over at the gym in Trojan and showed them some of that. So I'll be making a few clips, doing a bit of editing, and I'll get that up so everyone can have a look at that too. But with the water essence, it is like Bruce Lee says, be like water. So when you are in the fight, if the pace is being changed consistently against you, you're the one that has to then deal with that. You're the one that's rocking on your boat from the flow that keeps coming and changing, the current that keeps coming and changing. If you are able to then control the flow and be like water, you then are able to take the pace and do what you want to do with it. So that focus of controlling pace, and then particularly fluidity of your actual techniques and movements, a way I do that a lot is by adding different elements of coordination into my training. So I'll use big long circuits that have like 8 different workouts in, but one constant, because your constant might be, for example, you're in a lake. The current in a lake isn't exactly going to be there. It's going to be still, but it might be deep. That might be your constant. If you've got rapids, they're moving at a certain speed, and you've got rocks around you, but they're going to be changing different directions. It's going to be going at different speeds at different points. Your constant is the fact that you have short winding paths and a fast pace. And then we all know what the tsunami is. So that whole concept then stands into that level of positioning. So when I was going back to that cheat step, it turns, instead of calling something a stance, it's your position at any given time. If you look at guys like Israel Adesanya, he switches stance quite a lot. He says he's bistantial. And the way that I kind of see it is, anytime you put yourself in any position, you should be able to maximize a movement to ensure that you're either safe and able to protect yourself or able to strike. So in that, why stick yourself into I fight orthodox, I fight southpaw? If you are able to understand the positions that you're most likely to end up in based on your fighting style, you're able to then use those moments where you may be a little bit unstable, you may be a little bit off, to adjust that and turn that into a point where you can be dangerous. Like a tsunami raging through a town, if you've then got a valley that peaks down one way, you've then got a whole different catastrophe on its way. So that's kind of the idea of the water element and water flow. Air is the fighting breath, and I read a lot into ancient Chinese spirituality and mysticism. So the 3 breaths is something that is essential in ancient Chinese martial arts and in Taoism, and that is the energetic breath, the spiritual breath, and the physical breath. Now, these are different ways of applying what is essentially required for your incantations. And in my aspect of how I've now applied it to the martial arts, it is what is required for your body to move, and that's oxygen. So your focus then hits your breathing, it hits your control of the actual body through your breathing, and being able to conserve your energy in high-paced scenarios, as well as actually generally developing your cardio, because end of the day, you need that baseline. I may not do as many long runs as a lot of stereotypical boxers and kickboxers, but I do like long periods of high intense and high-paced circuit training. So with that air focus, the combination with earth, which we'll go into now, and you'll see where this kind of adds in. Without air above the earth, well, with air above the earth, you get wind, and that then becomes the focus of those workouts, is a wind focus. And that's something that I do also tap into as well, the idea that these elements do combine, because they do in the real world. So these things will combine for more focused workouts as you start to develop the understanding and as you start to apply it to things. And the earth is the fighting foundation. So the focus of the earth is fundamental technique, muscle memory, reinforcing the body and strengthening muscles. And so this is where it turns into wind, in addition with earth and air as you focus in your circuit training. Because if you are strengthening the body as well as strengthening cardio at the same time, you're creating a synergy and combining those 2 elements, which then creates the wind. And like we know, wind can change pace, wind can change speed, and wind can take things down. And that's when we turn that into that application of that martial art. So there's a quick breakdown of my elemental philosophies. And I hope you've enjoyed it. That's just a little intro into some of the thought processes that I have pretty much before fights and around fights and in fights. The one last thing that I do like to do, and I will say, is you might be thinking, how do you choose? There's so much that you then have to look at. There's a general basis throughout all of my training of like I said in the quote at the beginning, that you have to use all 4. It's a balance of those elements. But with a bit of a visualization, a bit of meditation, whenever I do know that I'm about to get ready for a fight at the beginning of the month before fight camp starts, I tend to have a little bit of a period of introspection and introspection based on the previous fight. And what the element focus was from the last one, I think it may have an addition. It may have a contribution. I'm not totally sure on that aspect, but they've cycled very well, and it tends to be what I've looked at the end of the fight, what I think I should improve on. There tends to be an answer in one of the elements. So it's worked for me so far. I'm 3-0, and we're looking to make that 4-0 at the end of the month on the 28th of May at Bar Sport in Cannock. So tickets are available now, www.cleancross.store. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And yeah, thank you for joining me today. Peace.